Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back once again on F1 22. Double upload today because it is release day, and earlier I uploaded my very first setup in my hot lap and setup series, so hopefully that helps people get off to a good start. But in this one, this is my very first race that I ever did in the F1 22 multiplayer, and I'm actually going to be showing you the first 3 races I have ever done. So yeah, I was really looking forward to this. This is on PlayStation 5. I will be playing on all platforms as well, and you can see we've actually loaded in the Bahrain setup that I did a little bit earlier in the day because it was very close to what the default setup actually was. A few changes, but very, very close. Rocking the Mercedes here in equal cars, and we decided to do all the tracks that have been updated from last season. So we're at Spain, Catalonia, Barcelona. One thing I noticed about this game is traction is very, very difficult, and you can see people getting a different launch off the line. But as we go into turn 1, just being very, very cautious, and this is the first time I've ever raced against anyone, so this is completely brand new territory for me, and we actually make a fairly good start up through into the first sector, and now we're up into P5 of this race. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the handling as this video does go on. Please let me know what your thoughts are of the game so far, whatever platform you're playing on. For me, it feels pretty nice in terms of the handling itself, as we get a pretty good launch coming off here, and this is one of the corners that's been updated, and we just dive down the inside here and just about got them done. And yeah, that felt very, very satisfying. In terms of the handling itself, the cars do feel quite heavy. Under traction, especially at low speed, is quite a challenge. I have heard that they're actually thinking of making the traction easier, which in my opinion is a mistake, because it does feel pretty satisfying, and you can see by the starts of the race, if you're not smooth on the traction, you will be punished, and we don't need to be making this game easier. I think it's going to be much more rewarding if there is a bit more of a skill gap, which I think anyone would agree. But yeah, I really hope that they don't change that, because initially, in terms of how the car's feeling, it does feel pretty nice to drive. Definitely a lot more challenging almost straight away than F1 21. You have to be a lot more careful on the traction. Although you can go on the power, if you go too quickly, it's just going to spin up the rear wheels, and you're just not going to get a good exit at all. As we're coming through into here, we'll get another good launch, and this corner used to be much slower, and what do we do this time? We're going to do exactly the same thing again, so pretty nice move down the inside, and now we are up into P3, so a pretty good first couple of laps so far in my very first race that I've done online, and now we are going after this Williams. And at the exit of this corner, this gave me a good indication of what the slipstream was like, and we're using the overtake button here, getting this move done, and it doesn't look like he's going to fight it too hard. He does try and go around the outside here, but we managed to just outbrake him. And in terms of the rest of the handling, I've noticed DRS is not particularly effective, at least for me when I've been playing online. Either people are running much lower wings than me, or it isn't that powerful at all. That's one thing that I've definitely noticed. Dirty air doesn't seem to be particularly strong, and the overtake button does seem to be quite powerful in itself, and it also seems quite hard to recover as well. So far in terms of the handling, I know that we've got quite a way to go yet, but initially it actually feels quite nice to play itself, and it's also quite nice that you don't have to use the curves as much. You can see we've got these yellow sausage curves on the inside of quite a lot of these corners. You definitely don't want to be touching those, and you definitely don't want to be accelerating off a curb as well. But we're going to see another example of what I mean with the DRS itself. So we use a bit of the overtake on the exit of this corner with the DRS, and you can say even with the overtake and DRS, he's actually maintaining the gap. It's kind of like what Red Bull are doing to Ferrari in real F1. And yeah, if you have the battery, then there really isn't that much you can do. And we're running fairly high wings here. We are running our Bahrain setup, but yeah, I think you can also see as well, one thing I have noticed is that although it's going to be a benefit to run much lower wings on the straight, in the corners you can see we've just got so much more downforce than him in the corners itself. And that was kind of the running theme throughout my online experience so far, which is going to make it very interesting that a lot of people could go for a low downforce setup, make it easier to save the ERS, and they'll be very hard to overtake, but then they might be very, very poor in the corners and not have as good tyre wear or tyre temperatures as someone with high downforce. So it's going to be interesting to see which direction people will go in as we're coming through into this final chicane now. I was kind of hoping he'd be quite low on the ERS. So you can see definitely through the slow speed corners we have a lot more grip than him. Using it here, so we've got the DRS once again, and as we're going down the straight, is his red light going to start flashing? Yes it is, and even with it flashing, you still couldn't get back on the racing line, so it wasn't a particularly easy overtake, which is going to make it crucial about saving as much ERS as you can. And yeah, just let me know what you think of the balancing of all these different components in terms of the slipstream, the ERS and the DRS. What are your thoughts on that itself? But yeah, in this first race here, pace is actually seeming to be pretty good, and there are quite a few fast drivers in here who have played on previous games, so I definitely had a little bit of a benchmark to go against as well. And you can see we've already got out of the DRS zone. If you look through this last sector, since we're running high downforce, I think you'll see how much we're actually going to put away with this. And I think high downforce usually will top trump a low downforce setup, and you could just see the amount of time we are gaining through here is absolutely astronomical. So we'll go across the line. We're going to win our very first race ever. If you'd like to have a guaranteed invite into these lobbies, then make sure you click the join button, because that will give you access to my YouTube Discord. And if you're available, I will be inviting you in first before I open lobby, along with all my updated setups and many other features. But yeah, first race we done, first race win that we get, and you can see that's our first XP that we have ever had. So yeah, a pretty good start. Our second track now is going to be Abu Dhabi, because this track has also been updated as well, which we didn't get to play on F1 21. So as the lights go out now, trying to get a good start, and once again you can see, since traction is so much more difficult, in my opinion it just makes it so much better in terms of the race starts, and you just have to be so much smoother on the power now. And as I said before, you can go on the power earlier and not spin out, but it's just going to bog you down and just create too much wheel spin. And I really like how the traction is right now, and I really hope that Codemasters don't change it, because if they just want to make it easier for newer players, then it's going to reduce the skill gap. And in my opinion, even if you're not an experienced player, it's more exciting having more levels to go through in terms of getting to your potential. So I really hope that's something to reconsider, rather than just trying to cater to every audience itself, if that makes sense. But you can see we're up into P3 here, so another good start. And first time I've actually gone around that corner, which is pretty nice to drive so far. And now coming through into this section, this corner has changed as well, along with this last sector really as well. So coming through into here, it's definitely a much faster corner now. And this one should be completely flat out, which we do flat out. And yeah, I have to say, I actually really do like this layout. And up into P3 here, so let's see if we can try and close in on the leaders. And these kind of lobbies here are the times where you're actually going to learn the most, in my opinion. These are lobbies what I use to really try and help improve myself. But as we come through into here now, our teammate just goes straight into the back of us, and he did message me afterwards. It was a complete mistake from his end because he had no idea where to brake, and I think I did brake just a little bit too early as well because I wasn't really too sure where to brake. And fair play, he actually does wait and let us pass, and as long as you do that, then there are absolutely no problems whatsoever. So now we've been pushed back to P8. Let's see what we can do in terms of recovering this race. And again, the curbs, so some curbs you can touch, but you have to be a lot more careful on the curbs in this game, and I'm actually very, very happy about that, because tracks like Monza in the past where you could just launch over the curbs, and it's really about how lucky you bounce off a curb is what determines your lap time. Now it actually requires you to be precise and hit the curb in a certain way or miss it completely, which I definitely prefer, as we get a pretty good launch coming off here. So we're going to try and go around the outside, just about more naked on track, but we do get pushed a little bit wide, which also another thing, the track limits do seem to be pretty strict on this game as well, which is fairly good to see. Obviously we will need to do a little bit more testing on that, but I noticed they definitely seem to be a little bit more sensitive than the previous games. And yeah, we're up into P6 here now. So as we skip towards the end of lap 3, going to this corner once again, still needing to learn how to do this one properly, and someone has gone off there. And I get a 2-second time penalty for running off wide there. And then coming through into here, just a prime example of what the traction is like. And yeah, the way I would describe it is that it's, for me, it's not incredibly difficult. It's definitely sensitive, but I find that when you lose the car, it's pretty difficult to regain control, which gives it much more of a risk factor, and you can't really get away with sliding around as much, which I think was another criticism of previous games itself. So yeah, in terms of the handling, I'm actually pretty satisfied of how it is feeling right now. But you can see we're in P7, go overtake this guy who is unfortunately disconnected from the lobby itself, so back into P6. And you can see on the left hand side that the amount of people that have time penalties definitely seems to be quite strict on the corner cutting, which I will definitely welcome with open arms, because one of my main strengths really is actually to be consistent and keep it within the limits, as this guy's gone off as well. Going flat out through here, we actually get the legal overtake, which is another little bug we had on the previous game. Getting our elbows out a little bit here, cross line in 4th, but we're probably going to be pushed back, I think we have, to P7. And now we arrive at Australia, which has also been updated quite drastically. So as we've got 5 lights, they're going to go out now, and you'll see once again just being much more smoother on the traction of how much more beneficial that can be in terms of your race start. Going to Stel 1, just trying to avoid the chaos as usual, and we've put ourselves up into P9. Pretty much most corners on this track have changed, including this one as well. Seems to be a little bit wider as the Alpine was spinning around there, and coming through into this one, try and almost do it flat out. This guy Alfa Romeo goes out wide, so we just sneak that position. Now coming through this really fast corner, but as we go through this corner, taken out again. And yeah, that was another one of my YouTube members who did apologise afterwards, but that corner is almost flat out anyway, so he must have just not even braked or anything like that, because I don't think I broke particularly early. And now that has actually put me back to P17, So let's see what we can do from here on this relatively short racetrack. And I think this is also a good example of why it's important to conserve your ERS, because you'll see how hard it is to actually regain it again. So now we've gone up into P16 as this guy has gone off, and now coming into the penultimate corner, do a nice bit of trail braking, try and go around the outside here. The Aston Martin gets out of shape, so we go outside 1, 2 and 3, so we get 3 people there up into P13. And yeah, let's see how much progress we can make for the rest of this race. Making sure you get on the curb on the exit. Really looking forward to doing this track and time trial, actually. And I should be uploading my hot lap insert videos almost on a daily basis. That is the actual target. Now coming through into here. Try to take this almost flat out, just running a little bit out wide there. And we're up into P12. Do a purple first sector to the fastest of anyone in that first sector here, and using a bit of the ERS here, but then we are going to turn it off since we have already built up that momentum. Now coming into this very, very fast left-right chicane. Again, want to be quite respectful to these curbs coming through here, which we navigated through that quite nicely. This is another corner that has changed quite a bit, but I actually really enjoy this. It feels quite nice to drive going through there. Now coming through into this right-hander, then back into the penultimate corner again. And the brakes in this game, trail braking, I find is incredibly important and feels pretty satisfying on this game itself. As we're coming across the line, let's see what lap time we do. It's fastest lap of a 20.4. So coming through into this turn one, make sure you hit the curb on the exit again, using the overtake button on this exit. And you can see it is quite powerful. If the guy ahead of you is not using it, it is actually quite powerful. But if he does use it, and even if you have DRS, that's when it's going to be quite easy to defend against people from behind. And that's why it's so important, in my opinion, that you try and save as much ERS as you can on this game. As we're coming out through here after this first sector, don't think we're going to be using any of the ERS here, so we're just going to slot in behind this Ferrari, and we should have DRS on the exit of this corner. It's coming through into this left-right chicane, so again, I think you can see a lot of people are running lower downforce than me, definitely for sure, but then through the corners, if you're running high downforce, you just gain so much time back, and I think you're going to see this going through this last sector. Alpine gets out of shape, so that's another position. So we're up back into P8, and that guy, I think he was definitely running lower downforce because the car can get away from you much, much easier. My teammate is going out wide, so we give him space, and now we're up into P6. So I think we're probably just going to stay behind this car. The guys ahead of us have 2 seconds worth of penalties coming off the exit of turn 1. It looks like he has the DRS as well, and coming through into here, I think we're probably just going to stay behind the Missap. You can see we haven't actually used that much ERS this race, but we're still down to about 70%, whereas in previous games you'd probably be sitting at quite a comfortable 100% at this stage. Coming through into here, we're not going to use any of it again, as someone else I think has gone off here. So, and you can see we're in the slipstream, but he's actually pulling away. So unless he's using the ERS, and I think his ERS has, the red light is actually flashing on his car as well. But you'll see with the downforce we have going through these corners, we just gain so much more time with that. There's great track invalidation here, so we're not even going to use the ERS coming into this one. Fastest lap is a 19.9 now. So I think we're going to try and go for fastest lap next lap. Try and get that extra crucial 1 point. Now coming into penultimate corner, you can see with that extra downforce again, we've just got so much more speed in the low speed. And again, I think a great example of someone using low downforce, they just don't have the stability in the low speed at all. So now we're going to try and go for the fastest lap we can. Try and get within 2 seconds of this guy up ahead. So we go and get a double dose of the DRS here, and coming through into here, braking just after 100 meter ball, but going a little bit deep here. So the stopping power is absolutely crazy in these cars. And then coming through into here, do we do this flat out this time? The answer is yes. Coming through this first sector, is it a purple first sector? I'm not quite sure if you can tell. So now we're using the overtake button now, and you can see we're already within 2 seconds of the car up ahead. So as long as we don't get another track invalidation, we should be able to get back on the podium. And coming through this left right, let's see how much speed we can take through here. So making sure we're kept within track limits and using the ERS once again. And let's see how much we gain going through this last sector. So the gap is 1.6. Let's see what it is coming out of the last corner. So giving it everything we can going through into here. Now it's the penultimate corner. We actually lock up just a little bit, but you can see we gained about half a second through here, trying to get a good exit. And yeah, I think we gained about half a second just through that last corner. And we crossed the line, setting another fastest lap, and we went back to P17. We managed to get back to P3 in the end. And all you need to be is patient sometimes. As long as you have the race speed, a little bit of patience, and it can definitely go a long way. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed my first 3 races I've ever done on F1 22. Please let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you join my YouTube membership if you want my updated setups. I will be doing my hot lap and setups every single day, along with many more F1 22 content. So please subscribe for that. Hope you're enjoying the game itself, and catch you soon. Peace.